there are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like, I sit back. We've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Here's the problem. When Joe Dumars blows it up and trades Zion, who is going to give them anything more than 25 cents on the dollar for a damaged goods superstar who misses significant time, who doesn't love the game, but is built like a freight train? Problems are in New Orleans, and I don't know how it gets fixed.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
They're doing a new show about a Japanese interpreter.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're doing I don't know if it's a documentary or actors are in it.
It's got
I think it's a drama.
It's a real show.
It's like a scripted show?
Yeah.
About a Japanese interpreter?
Yes.
I wonder who's getting paid for that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Chris Beard said, I can just play different players. And kudos to Chris Beard. NIL does not matter. Recruiting rankings don't matter. Who your AAU coaches doesn't matter. At the end of the day as a coach, your loyalty is to your school. Your loyalty is to all the kids in the program.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid on this Monday after another NFL weekend and naturally some college football as well as we get to the college football playoffs beginning this week. Bowl season, of course, underway. We got two Adams on the show to break down football. Adam Kaplan with the NFL, Adam Kaufman with the NFL as well. We'll check in with also Joe Ranieri with everything that happened over the weekend. Naturally, it was a historical weekend in the National Football League because one team that we're very used to seeing play in the playoffs was eliminated, and a future Hall of Fame quarterback also will miss the rest of the season. We'll get to those stories and a whole lot more and cover the crazy week that was the National Football League right about now. Let's get started here and start off with our big sports betting story of the day, especially as it pertains to these prediction markets. Let's strike off another company that's not going to be operating in a state because of that. Arizona Department of Gaming has notified Underdog, you may be familiar with them, that it intends to revoke the gaming company's fantasy sports contest operator because of their partnership with Crypto.com and a prediction markets offering across 24 states. Underdog has held a fantasy sports content operator license since 2021, so no longer operating will Underdog be in the state of Arizona. All right, now let's get to the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes is going to miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL. Mahomes, of course, one of the greatest quarterbacks, of course, in the history of football, also taking his team to several Super Bowls. Will not see him in the playoffs. Maybe won't see him at the beginning of next year. Gardner Minshew will take over. The Chiefs were eliminated by the Chargers over the weekend. This, of course, means for the first time in approximately 20 years, no Mahomes, no Brady, no Manning in the playoffs, going back to 2008. Last night on Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys playoff chase took a big thud. In fact, they'll have to win the rest of their games this season, and the Eagles will have to lose their games. Spoilers, that's what you would call the Minnesota Vikings. Really impressive comeback win for them last night, 34-26. They end up taking this one behind J.J. McCarthy, who's looked certainly a lot better now that he's getting a little bit more of an opportunity. Dak Prescott, for the first time in a while, did not throw a touchdown pass in this one. Vikings getting it done on the ground and on defense as well. Here's Kevin O'Connell on picking up the spoiler win.
And the response from our quarterback was fantastic on the road, Sunday Night Football. First attempt gets batted and intercepted. And, he responded. I think he went 8 of his next 10 after that for 142 yards and a touchdown. And just felt confident. He felt, just simply still doing his job, throwing some checkdowns here or there, and then when the big plays were there, he made the plays for the most part. There's still a couple, things that throws that maybe he'd like to have back, but when you're making good decisions, you get your ops. And
it's the National Football League. I just saw a team Thursday night, that's not going to playoffs, beat a good team and knock them out. And so we've got to show up and just do our job. We got to show up and do our job, and that starts throughout the week. And when you get to the game days, it's a celebration of the hard work that you've put in through your preparation. So nothing's going to change for me, and that's going to be my influence as a leader. My message to anybody around me is taking pride in who you are as a man and who you are as a football player, and the job responsibility that you have. And what that entails is giving your best every day. And if you don't, you probably won't be in this league for long.
Would agree. And that means the Dallas Cowboys at this point on the outside looking in. Can't be said for the Denver Broncos, who are not only going to make the playoffs, they're going to be hosting some home games coming up next month. Bo Nix and the Broncos behind 4 Nix touchdowns end up taking down the Packers 34-26. Packers were favored in the game with that low total of 43.5. Green Bay also lost several players due to injury. One of them, Micah Parsons. We'll find out later today what the MRI shows, but he could end up missing extended time. Here's Bo Nix on the Broncos' fantastic home win against the Packers.
I had the guys around me do the same. Thought the skill guys, they balled today, and I thought our O-line played as good as they have played, since I've been here. They kept me completely clean. They battled their butt off. They played with great tempo. They knocked them, around as best they could, and I thought our guys responded because of it. We were able to get open, find some completions. 4 different guys with a touchdown. Bandy with his first. That was, awesome to see, especially getting us going like that and having the first one of the day. And then just having 4 different guys score big touchdowns like that is huge. Being able to score points and not kick field goals is, in a game like that's usually the difference maker.
The Buffalo Bills were down 21-0 to the New England Patriots in a game they came all the way back to win. How about this? 35-31. They're alive right now in the AFC playoff chase and for the division. Buffalo was a slight favorite in this one. They end up covering. Of course, naturally, who else other than Josh Allen to bring this team all the way back after the game talked about it being a signature win of the season.
We stayed the course, stayed together, didn't ride the highs, didn't ride the lows. Just told ourselves at halftime, we really felt like we were hurting ourselves in the first half. Going out there and just trying to execute each and every given play. Well, I think it's the love that each man in that locker room has for each other, the willingness to put their body on the line in order to not let their teammates down. And I think that's the driving force. It's the relationships in that room. And whether we're playing really good, whether we're playing really bad, this team, we're going to stick together and continue to fight and continue to try to find ways to win football games. And I think we saw that tonight.
Rams battled with the Lions for about 3 quarters and then took over on the ground and through the air. Blake Corum, Kyron Williams, both scoring touchdowns in this one as the Rams running game seems to be taking charge. 41-34 is the final. LA scores 24 points in the second half of this one. Sean McVay's team's going to play Thursday night coming up. It's the next NFL game after tonight, but still relishing in the win over a very good Lions team.
Kept staying in the moment. They kept making them snap it one more time on the defensive side of the ball. And I was proud of the way that we just, responded. We always talk about, let's not react, let's respond. And we don't have much time to be able to enjoy it. It's great to be able to punch a ticket to the playoffs. That's obviously always a goal, is to be able to give yourself a chance to play extra games after those 17 that you're guaranteed. But I love this football team, and I'm excited, about being able to start the preparation for Seattle. Our guys are starting recovery right now, and what a hell of a challenge we have coming up on Thursday.
44-year-old Phillip Rivers returned to the football field. He started the game for the Colts against the Seahawks, but Seattle kicked 6 field goals in this game to win 18-16, including a game winner at the end of the game. Of course, Seattle was huge favorites in this one, 13.5-point favorites, total 42.5. Rivers, what can you say? I mean, he played pretty good for a 44-year-old. Overall, here was his assessment.
We didn't find a way to get it done is the bottom line. We did a lot of things really well on both sides of the ball. And obviously, Blake, unbelievable, kicking the football all game. But, just some of us in there talking now is, we got to win. I'm speaking offensively. If I can, stay healthy, like I feel good, and it's going to get better as we go. But the catch in that is we got to win. It doesn't really matter if it's getting better as we go if we don't win, because it's going to be over in 3 weeks. So that's the catch there, but it's going to continue to get better. I mean, this was obviously the first one. We're talking about 3 days of practice. But again, it was a real blessing to be back out there with the guys. But obviously, this is about the Colts and the Seahawks, and we didn't find a way to get it done. And certainly a few plays here and there I'd like back. But all in all, we just didn't find a way.
Ravens took care of business against the Bengals, shutting them out, knocking them out of the playoffs. Baltimore 24-0 is the final, as they're still alive in their division chase. Also, how about Tyler Shuck and the Saints? Panthers controlled their own destiny. All they needed to do was win this game. They lose to New Orleans 20-17. 49ers beat the Titans 37-24 behind a couple of touchdowns from Jawan Jennings, and the Texans now have won 6 straight games. They beat Arizona by a final of 40-20. Impressive day for the Las Vegas Raiders. They only gave up 31 points this week. They didn't score any. I don't know if that means anything. 31-0 the final. Ouch. Bears moved to 10-4. They crushed the Browns 31-3. Trevor Lawrence, 6 touchdowns, 5 throwing, 1 rushing. Jags beat the Jets 48-20. And the Commanders beat the Giants 29-21 to end their 8-game losing streak. In baseball, a couple of signings this morning. Josh Bell does sign with the Minnesota Twins, his 7th team in 7 years. And also Adalis Garcia heads to Philadelphia to play their outfield next year as well. Vinny Iyer will join us next from Sporting News. Don't go away.
Be interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like, I sit back. We've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, a Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen when the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback. It's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like, I sit back. We've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was
All right, welcome back. Vinny Ayers with us from Sporting News to go over the latest in the National Football League. Vinny, great to have you back here on NewsWire here on this Monday. Let's go over the latest in the NFL and start with the game. Last night, the Minnesota Vikings go to Dallas and essentially knock them out of the playoffs. A bit of a surprise. 34-26 the final, as J.J. McCarthy finally starting to show some worth in this one, albeit against the Cowboys defense. Vinny, what's the takeaway from this? Certainly Minnesota's looking toward next year. For Dallas, I wouldn't say they overachieved thus far, but I don't think anybody really thought they had a chance to catch the Eagles. Now that's officially put away.
Yeah, with the Vikings, they're playing for next year. They want to see what J.J. McCarthy has to see if he deserves another season as a starting quarterback. And he's strung together a couple decent games in a row. And look, it was tough. I mean, he was coming back. He was essentially a rookie. He still hasn't gotten Justin Jefferson going. I mean, he had a quiet game again. But when the Vikings won, they had nothing to play for. They were eliminated before this game kicked off. So you had to be pleased if you were Kevin O'Connell to go in there and play well, where the Cowboys typically have been great at home in Dallas. So it's a good sign for them that they're showing some fight. We're seeing a few teams like that, the Saints, the Commanders, teams that are out of it, that are kind of just playing hard in every game and hard to know what you're going to get from them. But definitely you would put the Vikings in that category. The Cowboys, look, they had their chances. They've had multiple opportunities to get back into this with the Eagles kind of sputtering. Now it's over. You have to assess the defensive issues that you have left here. Hopefully Quinnen Williams and some of these other guys that they have next year will lead to a much improved unit on that side of the ball, because we know that was holding them back. And if they didn't score at will in a game, you know they were going to lose like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Rams, by the way, 41-34, as impressive a win as you're going to get against a really good Lions team. I think going into Thursday night, this kind of will determine if they win the division or not, although San Francisco is still right on the outside looking in. Very impressive on the ground, Vinny. This is a team now that's using two running backs with both Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to go along with that great offense that they have already. I mean, it's fair to say if they don't look like the best team in the NFL at this point, Vinny, they're definitely the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, they had a hiccup against the Panthers just a couple weeks ago, but every team has a bad game, and they were still rather competitive in that. And look, it looked iffy at the beginning with Matthew Stafford throwing that big interception that was returned. And you thought, okay, here we go. The Lions can keep up with them, but the Lions defense just very injury depleted at this point. They don't have a lot to stop anything on the back end. Last year, they kind of were able to overcome that because they were just outscoring teams. But now they're facing some better offenses that can outscore them, and that's what's happened here. So I think this is the reason the Lions are fading out of the playoffs. They might beat the Steelers this week to kind of save what's going on here, but the Packers, even with their loss, are still well ahead of the Lions for that last wild card spot, and the Bears also won. So looks like we might see a Detroit free playoff as well as Kansas City.
Now, I think the big story and the takeaway from the Broncos-Packers game may not be as much about Denver, Vinny, as it is about Green Bay. The Packers yesterday were dealt a severe blow, not just with Micah Parsons, but it looks like they may have lost one of their offensive linemen, maybe a wide receiver as well. It was a big injury day, of course, in the NFL. Broncos do win 34-26. If the reports are accurate, it means that Parsons' torn ACL will not cost him just this year, but maybe some of next year as well. I still think that Denver is probably one of the 5 best teams in the AFC. I mean, playing at altitude in the playoffs, that should help them a little bit. But for Green Bay, Vinny, at this point, this is my pick before the season. I mean, I feel like at best they're a wild card team. Are going to have to go on the road completely now to win some games.
Yeah, I mean, they could still catch the Bears. They are playing the Bears again this week, and sweeping them would be a big thing, because I think if they can sweep the Bears, then they at least get that home game. They're not going to get a bye over the Rams at this rate. So it's more just getting a game in Lambeau Field so they can at least get to the divisional round, because if you're down there at the bottom 7-6, you're going to face a very tough matchup there in the first round on the road. And look, this team has already had trouble winning in the playoffs of late with Matt LaFleur. This is going to make it a lot tougher. I thought they could be the challenger to the Rams. Right now, you got to look elsewhere. Maybe the Eagles, maybe whoever doesn't win the division or is right there with the Rams in the NFC West.
Finally, let's get to the game tonight, Monday Night Football. We just saw a report on ESPN that running back Jaylen Warren could be questionable for this game. He's a big part of what they do with a health issue. But Steelers are very slight favorites tonight against a Dolphins team that's playing much better. The weather, formidable, Vinny, in Pittsburgh, to say the least. Total of 41.5. This game would put Pittsburgh right square in the middle to make the playoffs. But if they don't win the game, it opens up the door, believe it or not, for Miami to potentially run the table and make the playoffs. And they'd have that head-to-head win against Pittsburgh, too.
Yeah, and this is a big game. Also, the Ravens will be watching. They got that rebound win against the Bengals that they needed after losing the first matchup. So they'll be waiting to see if they can get even with the Steelers. The Steelers would still have the tiebreaker in that division from last week's victory, but these two teams play again later in the season with 3 weeks left. So when you look at the Dolphins, I mean, Tua Tagovailoa in the cold, can he handle it? Can he do the job here? And big game here for the Steelers, as I mentioned, they're playing the Lions next week. Still a very tough matchup. I think they're touchdown underdogs in that game in Detroit, even though Detroit is fading out of the NFC playoff picture.
Vinny, as always, great stuff. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up again next week.
All right, thanks, Greg.
All right, Vinny Iyer from Sporting News. That's the game tonight on Monday night, Miami and Pittsburgh, final Monday night game of the week. And then, of course, we turn our attention to the NFL. And, of course, the playoffs are coming soon. By the way, scheduling note for the National Football League this week, 2 games this week on Saturday. One Saturday late in the afternoon and then one Saturday evening as well. We'll be back with the Sports Grid Sound Off when we return right after this. Don't go away.
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, a Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You may have heard Joe Burrow's comments last week for the Cincinnati Bengals, sort of hinting toward a potential retirement. Wonder if that will be the case after this week's shutout, courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens. But in this case, we'll hear from his teammate, Jamar Chase, also the struggling Raiders trying to find answers with Pete Carroll. And one of the toughest losses for any team in the NFL this season has to be the Patriots losing to the Bills in that fashion. We'll get to all that and more. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. It has not been an easy season for the Cincinnati Bengals. They lose their quarterback in September, only to get him back and then find themselves back in the race until they get shut out by the Baltimore Ravens. It's been a tough year for all involved, including wide receiver Jamar Chase. Certainly hasn't had the season that he was expecting, and talked about the season in general and how he feels after another tough shutout loss, this one courtesy of the Ravens.
You know Joe better than just about anybody. What do you do to lift him? What?
If I'm being honest, I never been in a situation with him where I had to uplift him. You know what I'm saying? But going forward, I might need to, because he does it to me at the end of the day, and you never know what he might be going through. So I might need to start doing that, you know?
Your bottom line is winning and losing, but does the shutout make it worse? Does that rub you the wrong way?
If I'm being honest, I'd rather get my ass blown out than be playing in a close game and lose by a field goal. So, yeah. I'm not sure. This is my first time, you know, probably going to have to, if anything. But I probably doubt I will. But I don't know. We probably just going to kick it, chill, and just try not to talk about football, if I'm being honest, yeah.
Tough night for Jamar Chase. By the way, Chase had a great game yesterday. T. Higgins should be back next week for them. Meanwhile, where do the Las Vegas Raiders go at this point? They were shut out by the Eagles 31-0. They are basically running the least amount of offensive plays in the NFL for over a month now, not even getting to what the average is. Offensively, they've been the very worst team in the National Football League this season, and this with new head coach Pete Carroll, who is feeling the heat as Vegas turns toward another losing season.
Expected this team to be competitive and to be one that would fight, and I'm not saying they've quit, but with 2 wins.
Oh, these guys fought their ass off. Hold on. Let me address that, because you brought it up. They fought their ass off. That was the result. They didn't stop fighting. That was the result of our play right there. I would never think we would. What would I base that thought on, that we would be really fighting for our life here? I have nothing but wins and background and history and all of that to set our expectations and to maintain the standards that we work by. And that's what we're doing. We're still doing it. We're still practicing hard. We're still working hard. We're still studying hard. The guys are giving good effort. They're in the weight room. They're fighting their tails off. The only good thing that happens, we didn't get anybody hurt today, you know. But they're doing all we're asking them, and this is the result of it against the world champs last year, who maybe weren't playing quite like that for a month here or whatever, but they look like it today. They look like a great team today.
It's going to be a very close race for the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Raiders right there, along with the Jets and along with the Titans. Several teams now with the 2-3 wins. This could go right down to the last game of the season. Meanwhile, went down to the last play essentially of the game. The Patriots up 21-0 with a chance to lock down the division against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo storms back all the way to win this one. It was a second half debacle for New England. And here's Mike Vrabel on what went wrong in the second half.
Well, I mean, we weren't able to get any stops, and you know, when we had an opportunity to make a play, we weren't able to make it. You know, penalties, and that's how this game goes. You know, a few small plays make the difference. We were very prepared for this team. We were going to need 60 minutes to beat this team. It's a good football team, and we had a lot of good football in there. And we had some, you know, a lot of plays that, you know, a few plays that we'd like to have back that we'll have to learn from them. They, you know, were able to get the running game going. We missed tackles. You know, we didn't build a good enough wall. Didn't get off on third down. Weren't able to create any turnovers, and or get any stops in the red zone. It's not no secret, you know what I mean? Called the same stuff. They called the same stuff, and you know, we just have to be able to take advantage of those opportunities that we get to get the drive stopped, and you know, whether that's a penalty or one play or a third down conversion. And, we just got to be able to learn from it.
We'll be right back with more Patriots-Bills talk with Adam Kaufman of SportsGrid right after this.
massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O, potentially, it said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
Sports Grid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing? And now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on Sports Grid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why, though?
Pro Football Today, only on Sports Grid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on the Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Adam Kaufman saw firsthand the battle for the AFC East, which looked like it was going to go one way, and then it went the other. So let's bring him in to ask him what happened here. Adam, great to have you back here, of course, on the show on NewsWire. It looked like the Patriots were going to wrap up the AFC East at halftime. To me, they were up 21-0. It was a real impressive offensive performance, but defensively, the Patriots looked stout. What went wrong in the second half? Is it just simply they're playing against the very best player in the National Football League and it isn't even close? Is that the fair assessment? Because to me, that's sure how it looks like right now.
I think there are multiple things at play. You know, obviously, for anyone that watched that game or was in attendance as I was, we saw history. You know, the Patriots had won 120 straight games at home when leading by at least 17 points. Matter of fact, in NFL history, a team sitting at least 9 games over 500, leading by at least 20 points, had never lost, period, in league history. So the Patriots giving up a 21-0 lead, obviously it was 24-7 at the break, and then watching that onslaught from Josh Allen in the second half, it was historic. In terms of how it kind of happened, it was very much both sides of the football, a tale of two halves. You had a Bills offense that really couldn't do anything in that opening half. In fact, Josh Allen had negative passing yardage in the opening quarter of the game. They weren't running particularly well. Travion Henderson was running all over the place. Ramondre Stevenson to a degree as well. You had 2 design runs for touchdowns out of Drake May. For whatever reason, and really the shift began late in the second quarter, but into the second half, it completely flipped. The Bills scored touchdowns on 5 straight drives. That's not just scoring. It was touchdowns on 5 straight drives. And New England defensively, even though they are a top 10 defense in the NFL by many, many metrics, their red zone efficiency defensively is awful. Offense and defense for that matter. But defensively, they have the worst red zone showing across the board. 75%. That's the efficiency. 75% of drives from their opponents end in touchdowns. Never mind putting points up with field goals. And at home at Gillette Stadium, it's even worse. It's 85%. The Bills went 5 for 6 in the red zone yesterday. I think you could look at the Pats offense that scored only 7 points in that second half, only mustered a 100 total yards, and see how just the shift in play calling happened. Travion Henderson, I know he had the 65-yard touchdown run, but barely had any attempts in the second half. They broke away from the run kind of altogether. I don't really understand why they would abandon something that was working so well for them in the opening half. And yeah, Josh Allen is a machine. Guys come back from down double digits in the second half, in the fourth quarter, no less, against Baltimore, against Cincinnati, and here, obviously, in this game, overcomes the 3-touchdown deficit. Patriots should still win the division. They're up a game, and they hold a slew of tiebreakers, but the Bills are absolutely not a team that anyone wants to mess around with in the playoffs, that's for sure.
No, and not only that, but Buffalo going to New England, if for an AFC championship, Bills are going to be favored in that championship. There's no doubt about that, which you never see in the NFL. The AFC championship home team as a dog. Wow.
I like that you're already presuming the Broncos are getting knocked out.
Not big on the Broncos. Buffalo goes to Denver and wins. Patriots minus 260 to win the division. That's come down significantly, and the Bills plus 200. Patriots win this week. I believe if they win this week, it's almost a guarantee that they would win the division. They got to win this week. Chargers knock the Chiefs.
And remember, they're underdogs, by the way, in Baltimore as well. So underdogs for a second straight week.
Yeah. Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs, and probably, unfortunately, a good thing for them with Patrick Mahomes being out for the season, suffered a torn ACL. Chargers are the team among many that have found the secret sauce to stopping the Chiefs. It's been a strange season, Adam, for them, where we just kind of feel eventually they're going to get it going. They were 5.5-point favorites in this game against the Chiefs this week, but what a thud to end their season. And I certainly don't think the dynasty is over, but they got to go back and look at film or something from what happened this year. Really bizarre season where the team did not look really any different from what they did a year ago. They just played a lot worse.
Well, I think it highlights how they weren't really as dominating last year as the record indicated. Yes, this team did go all the way to the Super Bowl before getting thrashed by the Eagles, but the number of one-score wins, really by the skin of their teeth. I mean, how many times last year, whether it was, Likely's toe was out of bounds, or, this field goal that would have won the game went off the uprights. They were playing all throughout last year with a horseshoe up their butts, and that just kind of evened out this year. This team has not been very good to the eye, on the field, in reality, any of it. Now, I don't think the dynasty is over either. I think that would be a little premature. Patrick Mahomes is, of course, not even 31 years old. Now, I think what's really interesting about this, just the timing of it, because people want to make the comparison to when Tom Brady tore his ACL, also in his 9th year. Difference was Brady obviously did that week 1 against Kansas City. For Mahomes to do it now, I don't know what the timeline exactly is going to look like. It hasn't been announced, but there's a universe that he's available for week 1 next year and effectively doesn't miss any time, really. Now, what does he look like after the injury? We'll find out, but this team just needs to really figure some things out. Is Spagnuolo still going to be there? Is he going to go look elsewhere? Is there a potential head coaching opportunity for him? I don't know. Probably not, but does he land somewhere else? People have asked, is Andy Reid going to walk away and retire? Because it looks like the Chiefs in these next couple of years, may not be what they have been for so long. I don't think he walks away either. I think there's still plenty of winning left in Reid. Does Travis Kelce retire? He looks like dust out there as it is right now, but I don't know that he wants to go out after missing the playoffs on this note. So maybe he tries to push his body and hang around for another year. But you have pieces. You have Rashee Rice. You have Xavier Worthy. You need a run game. You do need more depth at receiver. You need to improve the defense in a range of ways. But I think if you're Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all of them, you look around and you see a much more competitive division than it's been between Herbert, all those weapons, and Harbaugh. Knicks, most especially the defense, and Peyton. Even Pete Carroll, if they hang on to him with the Raiders, has some talent there. So this is a difficult division, an uphill climb, at least for the next couple of years, I would think, for Kansas City.
And also the Chiefs been very hesitant and even defiant on free agency. It seems like they're just always drafting and trying to develop players. I think that's going to have to change. I mean, every team eventually has to go out, even the Patriots did, and sign some big guys, the Mosses and Antonio Browns, and others. You got to do it eventually. All right, let's end with this, Adam. The Houston Texans are getting set for their Saturday afternoon playoff appearance. It looks like that's a done deal now at this point. The Texans will play the first weekend in the wild card as they beat the Cardinals 40-20. They've won 6 in a row. I don't think there's any stopping this defense at this point. They're going to win their 10 games, maybe 11. To me, the Cardinals are not the worst team in the NFL, but they sure look close to it. The only thing that's happening here is Brissett's looking good because they're just down so big in every game that they're coming back and scoring some points. But Houston's defense is legit, Adam, and they could give a team a run for their money. I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl, but I certainly think that defense can carry them for a win or two.
Yeah, I sort of view the Texans and the Broncos in the same light. A couple of elite defenses with offenses that I just don't quite trust yet. And honestly, I would be more inclined to trust this one even than the Bo Nix Broncos-led offense. 40 points is impressive against the Cardinals. Granted, the Cardinals are absolute trash. In recent wins, and this team has stretched off, 6 in a row, I think it is? It's 20 points against Kansas City, 20 against Indianapolis, 23 against Buffalo, 16 against Tennessee. These are all teams that do not have good defenses, and you're not putting up a lot of points. Yeah, you're doing enough defensively on your side to win these games, but the Texans need to figure out, how to find a little bit more balance, I think, if they're going to go on a real serious run. Now, it's probably going to look similar here against the Raiders, beat up on them. But then you got the Chargers. That's going to be a tough test. This Chargers team is still fighting for something, obviously, and trying to win that, get as high a playoff seed as it can anyway. And then you close with the Colts. I think they're going to be irrelevant by then anyway.
All right, Adam, thanks for coming on. Happy holidays. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Same to you.
We'll be right back with Joe Ranieri.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're doing a new show about a Japanese interpreter.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're doing I don't know if it's a documentary or actors are in it.
It's got a.
I think it's a drama.
It's a real show.
It's like a scripted show?
Yeah.
About a Japanese interpreter?
Yes.
I wonder who's getting paid for that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing? And now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in the great Joe Ranieri from the Early Line to break down some National Football League action. Joe and I, exactly the same age, which apparently is old enough to be able to get another shot at playing in the National Football League. As Phillip Rivers yesterday, Joe, came back, played. I would not say that he played particularly well. I'm not really enthusiastic about the Colts' chances, but they did keep a game close in a game where they were huge underdogs. It would have been the single biggest upset of the season in the NFL had the Colts beaten the Seahawks. Seattle wins 18-16, Joe. I'm not a fan of this move. I can't imagine that there isn't anybody better to play in the NFL on some practice squad than Phillip Rivers. But I will say it was a really tough environment for him to have to play. He did throw a touchdown pass. But I think the Colts are one of those teams that are going to just free fall till the end of the season and look back and say, why didn't we could they not call Tim Tebow to do this or something?
Oh, God. Well, you think there's any difference there? I will say this, though, Craig, to your point. If I play 18 holes, I've got to down an entire bottle of Advil and can't walk the next day. So I can't imagine what Phillip Rivers is feeling like here this morning. But listen, the running game and the defense did a lot of the heavy lifting for the Colts yesterday. But, I mean, for a guy that was on the couch, hasn't played, football in 5 years, I was pretty impressed on the grasp of the game. I thought that the moment wasn't too big for him. He got rid of the ball. You said it. He completed a pass at a touchdown. Unfortunately, listen, he even drove them down into field goal range to get the go-ahead kick. And unfortunately, the defense just couldn't get one last stop. But they brought him on to do one thing and one thing only, and give them a chance to win. That was the only thing they asked of him. And honestly, he did exactly that. He did all they asked him to do. Will he continue to get better? Will it get better? Time will tell. But again, the running game, defense, special teams, they're going to have to be very good every place else here moving forward.
Yeah. And again, I think the overvalue may come in on this game. The variance of a team in the NFL having to attempt and make 6 field goals, and that's it in one game is very low. Usually some of those are touchdowns, if not 1, maybe 2, or maybe 3, or maybe 4. So I would be very careful with the Colts and get back on bullish on Seattle. They just had a bad day. Meanwhile, the Raiders gave the Eagles a bye week this week, 31-0. The game ended at 3:30 Eastern, Joe. This was the fastest game played in the NFL this season. Eagles, I mean, I don't know what to say. I still don't really think the Eagles slump is over, but they got that scheduling against the Raiders right now, who easily are playing like the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I don't know that anybody's breathing a sigh of relief in Philadelphia camp right now because, again, you took on the Raiders and you beat up a Raiders team, which is what you're supposed to do. The problem is, can you do that against a Rams team? Can you do it against the Seattle team? Can you do it against the better teams? Can you be that proficient passing? Can you run the ball like you did? And we have not seen it this year. So the fact that you can do it against the Raiders, listen, it was a get-right spot on the schedule. They got right. They got to bring in Tanner McGee. But does that mean that they flipped a switch and suddenly all is well? I don't think so. I have my doubts.
Yeah, would agree. All right. Feel really good about Jalen Hurts' game. 3 touchdowns. He off the game that he had last week, so a nice bounce back, at least for him there. Yeah. 49ers bye week comes out with a bang. They put 37 up on the Tennessee Titans. 37-24 is the final. All of a sudden, the 49ers appear right back in the playoff chase. On the outside looking into the division, there's 3 teams playing very well in that division, LA, Seattle, and San Francisco, as Brock Purdy throws for 3 touchdown passes, 295 yards, 2 to Juwan Jennings. And so we can't discount the 49ers. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster for them, Joe, but I think in the end, they're very well coached. And it wouldn't surprise anybody to see them go deep into the playoffs if they make a run.
I mean, listen, you got to hats off to this organization and for what they have done. Kyle Shanahan and company should be coach of the year, top choice right now because he deserves. You don't lose Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. And oh yeah, by the way, Brandon Ayuk is not even showing up. So apparently that bridge is burned. So they don't even have one of their best receiver available to them. And yet Brock Purdy, George Kittle, who missed significant time, and here they are at 10-4, a game out of first place in the NFL's most competitive division. Nothing but good things to say. By the way, that was the worst beat of the weekend. Those that had Tennessee in the points had to watch the 49ers kick a meaningless field goal with about 35 seconds left to go in order to get the cover there. But, I mean, what else can you say? The schedule is the schedule. You can only play who's on it. And the 49ers, despite all the issues, are 10-4 on the season, which is very impressive.
Yeah, late bye week seems to have helped the 49ers. Maybe it helped the Giants a little bit in that game also. I don't know. It's interesting to me to see how those teams perform if they get a bye later in the year. Rams still the favorite to win the NFC, by the way, plus 185. Seattle 4-1, Philly 4-1, Green Bay 6-1, and there are the 49ers at 11-1. Ravens still alive, Joe, for the playoff chase here. They beat the Bengals 24-0. Cincinnati's season is over. Baltimore did look a little bit better yesterday. They finally got back to the running game. We saw how good Derrick Henry looks usually in December. He did it yesterday too. So let's not count out the Ravens just yet.
No, and more importantly, I think Lamar Jackson is looking healthier. And that was the biggest takeaway of that game. And yes, the defense is not good for Cincinnati, but his ability to be able to run and get out of pocket, he had some explosion. I think that's all good news for the Ravens moving forward.
And the Steelers will once again play the Ravens, Joe. As you know, that will determine the division. Right now, the odds are about the same. Minus 120, minus 110. The only thing that we know is you just take the dog, whoever's getting those 3 or 4 points, right, Joe, in the next game that they play? Because it just comes through every time. How in the world was Baltimore 5.5-point favorites against Pittsburgh last time? Pittsburgh won that game outright. Maybe that gets flipped this time.
Yeah, and that could very well be. If it ain't broke, right, we don't want to fix it, right? And no reason to look any differently.
No, same thing with Army, Navy, unders. Every year, same thing. Thanks, Joe, for coming on. Appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon.
Enjoy it, guys.
All right, Joe Ranieri joining us off the couch and onto the show. A little bit easier than playing football. Rich Sermonillo joins us next for the latest in college football. Don't go away.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
They're doing a new show about a Japanese interpreter.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're doing I don't know if it's a documentary or actors are in it.
It's got a.
I think it's a drama.
It's a real show.
It's like a scripted show?
Yeah.
About a Japanese interpreter?
Yes.
I wonder who's getting paid for that.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why though?
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing? And now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. In case you missed it over the weekend, the Heisman Trophy Award was given to Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. And of course, the Hoosiers are the #1 seed going into the college football playoff. Very big story coming out of college football and very well deserved for a kid who, by the way, played not far from me at Columbus High School in South Florida. So now what we'll do is we will check in with Rich Sermonillo, who has the very latest on Mendoza winning the Heisman, and also what the landscape is for the upcoming college football playoff, which begins this weekend, not to mention all of the college football bowl games already underway, including Saturday night with Washington picking up a win against Boise State. So without further ado, let's check in with Rich. He's got the very latest on the Heisman and what we can expect from a very exciting bowl season on deck.
Craig, playoffs are here for college football. Bowls are here as well. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that. First off, congratulations to Fernando Mendoza, 2025 Heisman winner. Best choice on field, off field, the job he has done as the quarterback in his lone season for Indiana. Remarkable, the only undefeated team. We're going to have time to talk about 2026 Heisman. I'm going to wait until mid-January. I love getting into this early, even taking a look at some early odds, but let's wait until after the NFL entry early decisions mid-January. Transfer portal more relevant to me. I want to see where some high-profile quarterbacks wind up. Is it the NFL? Are they other teams? Where is Byron Brown, for instance, from South Florida? If you look at the Heisman, Craig, for the last 4 years, all transfers. Mendoza began his career at Cal. Travis Hunter originally at Jackson State. Jaden Daniels was Arizona State before LSU. And then Caleb Williams, USC by way of Oklahoma. Now, playoffs, 4 games. Not thrilled with the slate. Happy it's here. I think Friday night will be fantastic. Alabama, Oklahoma. I don't have a strong lean in this game. I expect both defenses to be outstanding. If I had to make a choice, I'm going to go with Alabama, even though this game is at night in Norman. They lost by 2 at home in Tuscaloosa during the regular season, but 3 key turnovers in that game, including a pick 6. So 3 turnovers, defensive touchdown, only lost by 2. I hate the Oklahoma offense. I think Alabama's offense slightly better with Ty Simpson. It'll be low scoring. I think it'll be competitive. Alabama, very small lean. Now, the games I do like this weekend are on Saturday. A big weekend for the group of 5. It'll be the group of 6 next year with the revival of the Pac-12. This is big for JMU and for Tulane, but also the group of 5 in general. If they lay an egg, which is kind of what I expect on Saturday, I think it's going to be even harder for these smaller schools to get into the playoff in the future. Oregon against JMU, laying 3 touchdowns. I don't think this is competitive after the first quarter. Oregon, too big, too physical, too fast. I think they'll overwhelm JMU. Great defense by the group of 5 standard, but I don't think it's going to hold up well against Oregon. So I like Oregon to cover that number. I actually have this game 38-13, Ducks over the Dukes. Tulane, Ole Miss. This is an interesting storyline. As everybody knows, Lane Kiffin no longer at Ole Miss. He built this program. He's now at LSU. Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator, is the permanent head coach. This is what I expect. Same situation with JMU as Tulane. They have one-dimensional run-first quarterbacks. Jake Retzlaff from Tulane, not a good passer. I think that one dimension is going to struggle against Ole Miss's defense. More than that, though, Craig, I think this was a rallying cry. I think people in Oxford, fans of that program, are so pissed at Lane Kiffin right now that I think they're going to rally together and put together a very big showing. Defensively, more than anything else. I think the offense could stumble a little bit without Lane Kiffin's direction. Trinidad Chambliss could get off to a slow start. So I like the under in this game, under in Ole Miss. The number is 56.5. I have this somewhere in the neighborhood of 34-13, Ole Miss over Tulane. Best game of the weekend, Miami, Texas A&M. Highly anticipated. Why in the world is that 12 o'clock? But the game itself, I like A&M. Miami is built for a championship. Love their line play. But the coaching matchup is a huge disparity. Give me Mike Elko over Mario Cristobal. I like A&M laying 3.5. So a great weekend of college football beginning Friday night with the college football playoffs.
Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
Well, I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
Sports Grid's College Football Today.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing, and now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on Sports Grid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
What? Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why, though?
Pro Football Today, only on Sports Grid.
We just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Great to have Adam Kaplan back in the house to break down everything happening from the National Football League, our Sports Grid insider. And Adam, welcome back to an edition of NewsWire that is very different than a lot of the others because for the first time in a really long time, the Kansas City Chiefs irrelevant as we head into January. They lose yesterday to the Chargers. As Patrick Mahomes gets hurt in this one, tears his ACL, immediately goes on social media, says, I'll be back and I'll be back strong. What went wrong before this injury, Adam, for the Chiefs this season? Because they weren't going to make it. I think even if Mahomes could have finished the game, I mean, I guess maybe a call goes their way like it has so many times before and maybe leads to a win. But it doesn't seem to me that the team is that different from last season. What went on this year?
All right, so yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. So let me give you the Cliff Notes version. So you talked about Mahomes, right? He did actually, by the way, he tore his left ACL. He had a left knee injury leading into this game. He's had it for a couple weeks. He was seen massaging it on the sidelines a couple games ago. But the bottom line is he's done for the season. Gardner Minshew will finish the season out. We'll see if they want to bring Minshew back as the backup. But you really have to start in their offseason. So you know what happened to the Chiefs of the Super Bowl? They got annihilated. They were not competitive against the Eagles. Their offensive line was dreadful. We went through 4 left tackles last season. Well, Brett Veach, the general manager, decided that was not going to happen again. He actually signed 2. He brought in Jalen Moore from the 49ers, which he could play right or left tackle. And Josh Simmons in the draft, who played well before he got hurt. In fact, remember, he came back from a major knee injury at Ohio State, and then he rehabbed well, was back earlier than expected, and played well before he got hurt again. And he's got a wrist dislocation, so he wasn't going to come back anyway. But if you look at some of their offseason moves, Craig, a lot of them did not work. Christian Fulton, who is a high-priced corner coming in from the Chargers, he got benched several weeks ago. He's a healthy and active. Not only do they owe him a lot for this season, they owe him $6 million in cash, fully guaranteed. He's a weekly inactive. He doesn't even contribute. Other than Trent McDuffie, who, by the way, didn't play yesterday due to a knee injury, they've not gotten good enough play at corner. And Craig, you go back to that Super Bowl against the Eagles. Their corners were dreadful. They gave up too many big plays. They don't have a quality starting corner other than McDuffie. They need better edge rushers. So you go, well, what happened? Yeah, they've made changes. A lot of them have not worked yet. And let's be real here. Mahomes of the past 2 seasons is not played at an elite level, not even close to it. But as you kind of alluded to, he's sort of Superman. It could look really, really bad, kind of like John Elway in second halves of games. If you're old enough to remember John Elway, folks out there, I know Craig and I are. Elway would look bad for 3 quarters and bring the team back. Well, he couldn't do that anymore.
True.
And if they don't win their final 3 games, Andy Reid will have his first losing record as the Chiefs head coach.
Yeah. I think the Chiefs will be back. I think, as I just talked to Joe Ranieri about, Adam, at some point you have to acknowledge maybe free agency is part of being in the NFL. Like, the Chiefs have avoided it for a really long time. They don't want to bring in guys. They want to draft and develop. But at some point, to keep it going, you may have to bring in someone. We'll see what the future holds. How about the Packers, Adam? How about the Packers? Where do they go? A lot of injuries come out of their loss to Denver. And basically, their season is sort of on the line here a little bit, I feel like, against the Bears coming up on Saturday, by the way. I noticed this game is Saturday. Micah Parsons with a knee injury that's going to cost him this year, and who knows what beyond, but he's not the only guy to get hurt coming out of this game.
Yeah, it's devastating. Boy, and that was a textbook. When you look at non-contact, Craig, ACL injuries. He takes a sort of like a false step, a step that he didn't get the step that he wanted, and the support from the grass in Denver, and it looked really, really bad. And it's a suspected ACL injury. They knew, by the way, from a medical staff point of view, what happens is they use what's called the Lockman test, or the team doctor. You could actually do it on the sideline. You test for loose ligaments. You check the ACL to see if it's loose. If it's loose, you know that it's been impacted. So that's devastating. They had some guys get hurt in that game, and yeah, they're right now. Not only the Bears, the front runner for the NFC North. We know the Lions are out of it. More of that in segment 2. But you worry about this team right now because Matt LaFleur's been Mr. Regular Season, playoffs, not very good. But right now, with the way the Bears are playing, the Packers are not a lock to make the playoffs. I mean, most likely they will be because their offense is good enough to hang in there and carry it. But when they made the trade for Michael Parsons, people forget about this. Why did they do it other than he's a great player and he was available? The Packers knew that if they wanted to go deep in the playoffs, they had to improve their pass rush. That was a problem for them over several years. It had not worked. Their pass rush could not really get home consistently. You get Parsons in, the defense took a next step. And with the defense, it's actually very, very talented. But the issue that they've had, other than the Parsons injury, is that the cornerback position, they've not been as good. Nate Hobbs, who's a really good nickel player and can play corner, which he did for the Raiders. He's been hurt for most of the season with a knee injury. They're just not there yet. If I'm a Packer fan, I'd worry about it. And if you're putting future numbers on them for a playoff run, forget it. It's not going to happen. And we'll get more to the segment 2 when we go over my teams that I trust.
Sure.
And it includes wagering. If you're going to wager teams you want to back, that list is shrinking, man. That list is shrinking as we go forward here.
Definitely. All right. The Colts have to be one of those that's shrinking out here at this point. I mean, look, I don't even know, honestly, what to make of this whole situation, Adam. I want to give Phillip Rivers credit for doing what he did, because certainly it's amazing to sit out this long and come back and even be on a football field. But what an indictment on quarterbacking in the NFL and even in college football that you would have to go to this point. I don't know how Riley Leonard would have played. I don't know how Mike White would have played, I don't know how Tim Tebow would have played in this game, but just a bizarre set of circumstances, honestly, to get to this point where there isn't anyone on a practice squad or someone in college that was a 3 that was let go or something like that, to go back to Rivers. To me, I don't. How's the rest of the league view this, Adam? Like that, to me, that's like the bigger question here. And
yeah, although I'll tell you, Rivers is really respected around the National Football League. But Chris Bauer, the GM, look, you got to understand where he's at, right? So Anthony Richardson is on IR with an orbital fracture. He's not been cleared to practice yet. We know about the Jadon Jones injury, which they couldn't predict. He tore his Achilles, so he's done for the season. Then Riley Leonard starts. Does a yeoman's job, that has a knee injury, though he was healthy enough to be available for the game. He was the number 2 for the game. And then Brett Rippon, they didn't want to go with him. That one surprised me. But as one person said to me who would know, would you rather go with a guy who knows how to play, who knows the system, who actually, by the way, played with Michael Pittman 5 years ago, so they knew each other, who's healthy? Yes, it's kind of crazy he hadn't thrown a ball in nearly 5 years in the National Football League. But go with a guy like Riley Leonard, 6th-round pick, who you really don't want to use. I get why they did it, and they almost pulled it off. The fact that they were up at halftime is a shocker to me. The other thing is Rivers can't move. He never can move. the Seahawks defense is top 3 if you look at a lot of the key metrics. But man, they couldn't get to him. It surprised me. They couldn't get to him like I thought they would. The game was way closer than we expected. The lines makers also, they agree with me. They didn't expect this. But yeah, the Colts clearly are not going to go to the playoffs. It's not going to happen. But I give them credit for doing it. Now, why would you do it? Why would you bring in Philip Rivers or others? You could try to get a guy off a practice squad, but he's got to know the system. My understanding was, I was told Thursday night why they probably would go with Rivers. He understood the system, and he looked good in practice. Like his arm was live. Though you could question the pass to Jonathan Taylor, the first one, that thing had a tail on it. Not that he ever had, he has that, Rivers, Craig, has that crazy throwing motion. It's like a shot put, which I saw at the Senior Bowl back in 2003. But he did a good job. He hung in there, and we'll see what happens over these final 3 games.
He did. And again, a close game. The one thing I also just mentioned, Adam, is that generally speaking in the NFL, if you end up kicking 6 field goals in one game, again, credit to the Colts defense, but variance on that is very low. That's going to turn into several touchdowns the next time and the next game that a team just had to kick so many field goals. That means basically they did not even get a first down 6 different times on 3rd down when they tried to. But anyway, a story for another day. When we come back next, as Adam said, his circle of trust is getting thin, but there are still a few teams to review and maybe some on the outside looking in. We'll be back with more NewsWire after this.
Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge. You're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Here's the problem. When Joe Dumars blows it up and trades Zion, who is going to give them anything more than 25 cents on the dollar for a damaged goods superstar who misses significant time, who doesn't love the game, but is built like a freight train? Problems are in New Orleans, and I don't know how it gets fixed.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen when the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback. It's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Getting very thin as far as who you trust in the National Football League. Adam Kaplan will exemplify that as we continue to have these conversations each and every week. It's getting sort of thin, Adam. We have you for your circle of trust, but here's mine. I got Buffalo. That's it.
Why?
Because if Josh Allen, and that's it. Josh Allen to me is so, now with Lamar Jackson being a little bit of a step back, is so far ahead of everybody else as far as who I would want to have running the show in the National Football League. I think Buffalo could go to Denver and win easy. I saw them beat New England. Now, I will say this. Getting to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl are 2 different things. But Buffalo, to me, is that one team that I could see going on the road if they have to and going all the way to the end. Now, naturally, Rams or whoever in the Super Bowl, Eagles, I could see them losing. But he's just so good. He's so much better than everybody else.
He is taking over from Mahomes just when you think it can't happen. I'll admit it. I pick usually 5 to 7 games a week that I like just for my own edification. And I loved the Patriots yesterday. I mean, I really did. And they couldn't do no wrong. They played almost a perfect half of football. And then the Patriots didn't have the ball in the second half hardly at all. And Josh Allen just willed his way. You're absolutely right. There's something innate about this guy. He came in from Wyoming. Terrible accuracy, less than 60%. Those guys like that, Craig, they typically don't make it because it's hard to coach accuracy. I remember talking to Brandon Bean, their GM, when Josh Allen was drafted. He said to me, I'll never forget this. He goes, as long as we can get his footwork better, he's going to be who we think he is. And over time, Brian Daboll, by the way, did a phenomenal job with him. And over time, he got the job done. And it's funny, though, their passing game has not been great this season. It's not. It's dropped off. But James Cook has been fantastic. But the greats of the game bring you back. And there's something about him, and I know talking to their coaches over the years, he's cocky in a good way. He just has unbelievable confidence in himself. Coming from Wyoming, which is not a great football school, guy's got this heart of a lion. He's really incredible. And you're right. We've talked about this really since week 1 when I told you I came back from my training camp tour. This is probably going to be a wide open year. It is. It still is. It's anyone's ball game, man. But the problem with the Bills is you mentioned, you're trying to back them. You don't know from 1 week to the next exactly what you're getting. Their defense does worry me. Issues in the secondary corner. I've talked about them all season. Teams I've talked about have pointed out to me. Yeah. Watch their cornerback group. And Benford didn't play their best corner yesterday, but they were able to win and overcome it after a shaky first half. But overall, yes, look, and eventually Sean McDermott, my old neighbor here in Philly, eventually they're probably going to get to a Super Bowl because of that quarterback. I would agree with you.
Yeah, and again, I'm not concerned at all with the Chiefs not being there for people watching, things like that. I kind of want Josh Allen to go far, I really want that to happen for him. But I've seen Super Bowls play out so many times where I thought one team would win and then the other one wins. So I would never sit here and say that Buffalo's a guarantee to win the Super Bowl. I just feel like that's the team for me, outside of Jacksonville, of course. My Jaguars in the AFC. The Jaguars win again yesterday.
Oh boy, yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
So let me put it to you this way. Since we started doing this, I think that your hit rate is almost 100%. As far as the teams you trust, still hanging around. So I'm going to ask you about the 1% team that I think that you made. No. Not even so much Jackson. No. And Jacksonville was rolling a little bit. You're you never know. You crushed Houston.
I know. And
back in October, that was the one team that you're all right, it's over. We can move on from them. But everybody else, you were all right, we'll see. So how has Houston all of a sudden put themselves in a position here? I honestly think, and look, I got to be fair here. I like Jacksonville. That's who I picked to win, to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. But I don't think anybody wants to play Houston right now, Adam. Their defense is as good as any in the league right now.
And Stroud's coming on, and I got to give my man Kerry Rhodes we do Fox Sports Radio together on Sunday. He brought it up. He goes, "Dude, are you finally going to back Texans?" I said, "I have to." Elite defense. We've talked about how great they are, but Stroud had been struggling. What I was told is when folks would grade the tape from around the league, when they play the Texans, they'd see passing concepts not great. They need to get the marriage between the quarterback and the offensive coordinator correct. And Nick Caley, he's doing a good job. Caley came over from the Rams and the system that McVay runs, and it had been bad for well over a season. But they're starting to get themselves together. Nico Collins, when he's healthy, is a stud, as you know, Craig, for fantasy. They're playing well right now. But the question will be, and we'll talk more about this as we get closer to the playoffs, can the Texans score when they need to? That's been the problem with this team all season. They don't run the ball very well. You got to be able to run the ball if you get a lead. You could throw to win, you could throw to score it, but if you're up double digits, you want to be able to run the ball. They just don't run the ball very well. That's a problem. And the Joe Mixon injury has been underrated in terms of how it's hurt a football team. Him being unable to play this season has been a problem. But when you're elite on one side of the football, you could go back to the 70s with Super Bowl winners. You got to be elite, Craig, at something, and they're elite on defense. They're incredible.
So as far as some of the teams that are on the outside looking in, I guess what I would ask you is to throw a dart here at someone for me. Green Bay, Detroit, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay, and Carolina. Actually, I'm going to ask you to throw, I think 2 of these teams have to make the playoffs of all those teams that I just mentioned. So who's going to get in between the Bucks and Panthers? Who's going to get in between the Ravens and Steelers? And is Green Bay and Detroit, one of those will get in and one will not, right?
Detroit's not getting in. Yeah, Detroit's not getting in. You get them out. I didn't like them this year. I picked the Packers to win that division. Of course, nobody knew about the Bears. What a story they are. Buccaneers, I picked them to win. I remember I looked about a week or so ago at my divisional picks. Going to miss on 3 of them. Going to probably get 5 right. I'm shocked. The thing that shocks me, Craig, about the Bucs is they've gotten really healthy lately, and they're still losing. And Todd Bowles, I'm sure you're aware of his press conference. He kind of went off and deflecting responsibility, putting on the players, which you can do because I know he's got a ton of respect in their building. But he put it on the players there, and they're pretty close to the healthiest that they've been all season, and they better beat the Panthers this week. And the Panthers, not that I ever started backing them, I wouldn't because I know they're not talented enough. But I would tell you more about this later. Bryce Young, they've got the Panthers have a decision to make on his 5th-year option with around $26 million by May. He's got to do better. He's got to do better when it's going well. He's been very inconsistent, but has shown promise.
I mean, Tua sort of set that bar of what do you do with a guy like that? And, and I don't know. I think some will go the other way. Great stuff as always, Adam. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again next week. Thank you.
Got it.
All right. We'll be back to wrap it up next.
Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too.
Yeah.
And Eddie O, potentially, it said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter.
Yes.
And Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge, you're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Here's the problem. When Joe Dumars blows it up and trades Zion, who is going to give them anything more than 25 cents on the dollar for a damaged goods superstar who misses significant time, who doesn't love the game, but is built like a freight train? Problems are in New Orleans, and I don't know how it gets fixed.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Fernando Mendoza is your Heisman Trophy Award winner, and one player was not. He was not making the best of his comments after that. We'll get to that in a minute. Also, a legendary game turns 20, or is it 33 years old? 34 years old. I'll get to that in a sec. Older than Frank and older than Luke, people working on the show. And also, John Cena bids farewell to professional wrestling. It's time now for some last licks. Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt did not win the Heisman Trophy Award. He was phenomenal during the regular season. I personally thought Mendoza should win. I thought Love should finish second. That's not neither here nor there. I didn't think Pavia was the winner of the Heisman Trophy Award, but apparently he thought he should have. After winning the Heisman, he goes on social media and also creates a video basically saying, using some expletives and challenging the voters to saying that he should have won. And he doesn't care. He's mad, etc. What? I mean, just a bad look for Diego. I mean, come on. Honestly, in all the years I've seen the Heisman stuff, I've never seen a player who didn't win not just congratulate the other person and shake hands and goodbye. But social media is a crusher for some of these guys. Either way, Pavia goes out, makes these statements right after. Mendoza was the clear winner, should have won. And then, of course, what happens after that? Gets a lot of crap. And now it's the apology tour. Pavia now goes back on social media late yesterday, says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And Mendoza's a great winner. And, he was just upset, and I get it. And look, here is the lesson with all of this. And I've been down this road as well with social media, especially with baseball, covering sports and working. Take some time to absorb before you make a post on social media. When you're posting on social media as well, folks, what you do, don't send it right away. Think about it. Should I be sending this? Maybe even put it in a draft. I do this all the time. And then this way, after some time and maybe hours, maybe even days, if you decide to do it, maybe it's the right thing to do. But all Pavia had to do was just take a break, understand that it's not the end of the world. He's still going to have a great career ahead of him, probably in the pros. My 2 cents for those of you who use social media. And I've been there before, and I get it. Careful. Okay, 34 years ago in 1991, I was graduating high school and heading to the University of Florida. This was 34 years ago this past Saturday. And I remember in my dormitory taking on everyone playing this game that ended up becoming legendary for Nintendo called Tecmo Bowl. Do you remember this game, Tecmo Bowl? A lot of you probably have no idea what it is, or even Super Tecmo Bowl, or even the fact that you can still play this stuff with modulators online. But it was the first pro football game to use the images, the names, and the likeness of actual players. Now, in the game, it didn't have all 30 teams. It only had about 16 or something like that. But the legendary name, of course, to come out of all this was Bo Jackson, who was playing at the time for the Los Angeles Raiders. And Bo Jackson essentially was the most unstoppable player at the time. And I remember when I was younger using Bo Jackson over and over again. Lawrence Taylor on defense for the Giants. So happy anniversary, 34 years old, to Tecmo Bowl, the greatest football game before Madden ever created. Finally, we bid farewell to John Cena, professional wrestler who finally wrapped up his career against Gunther on Saturday night in the WWE. And a lot of folks are very upset as to how this went down. Gunther put John Cena in the sleeper hold. Is it a chokehold, sleeper hold? I don't know, whatever it was. I was watching. It looked like Cena was going to get up and get out of it. And the fans were going crazy. But then Gunther got a little tighter in that hold, and John Cena tapped out. First time he had tapped out in 20 years of professional wrestling. He left his shoes, he left his shirt, he left everything in the ring and walked off for the final time. 17-time WWE champion, and now excellent actor. And by the way, from all indications, what you see on social media, real or not, the guy always takes time to sign autographs, always takes time to sign pictures for fans as well. So congratulations to a great career for John Cena that comes to an end officially Saturday. Thanks again to our great guests here on the show, as well as our show has come to an end. Vinny Iyer of Sporting News, also Adam Kaufman and Joe Ranieri and Adam Kaplan, all of SportsGrid. Monday Night Football tonight. We got Game Time Decisions and In-Game Live covering you on that one. Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cold night in Pittsburgh. Steelers are 3-point favorites, total of 41.5. Catch all the action with us and follow along to make your bets. If you are placing bets, make sure that you catch our opinions on all of our shows today. Thanks again to our director, Luke. For my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the rest of your Monday wherever you are streaming us here on SportsGrid. I'll see you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire. See you then.